Hey guys, it's Quana and I'm back again with another review. So I'm here to talk a little bit about Amazon's newest series called The Boys. I have seen the advertisement for the show for quite some time and I love superhero movies. So this was right up my alley, but because of some of the other programs that I've been watching, I haven't had an opportunity to watch it, and so I decided to sit down with the hubby and watch this show, and we started binge watching it the other night when we returned from our vacation and watched the first 3 or 4 episodes. Last night, I believe we got to the end. I was such a bad wife because I went ahead and I binge watched the rest of the show yesterday and was like, I'm so obsessed with this show now. He didn't, so we watched it again last night. I can't remember if we got to the end or not, so I may have to play dumb for another night. We'll see. But I'm sure once he sees this video, he knows that I've already watched it. So anyhow, I was unaware of the comic book that goes with this. I'm not into a lot of the more adult comic book series. I was familiar, of course, with The Walking Dead prior to the show, but I just wasn't familiar with a lot of the other comic books like Preacher or this. And so I wasn't aware that this was actually based on a real comic book. I thought that this was more or less a created superhero comic made for television show, but I did not know it was actually based off of a comic book. And so if you are into dark comedy, satire, and also superheroes, you are going to love this show. Put it in your queue. Go ahead and start watching it immediately. I watched the first episode, and I'm a Marvel fanatic. I love Marvel. I always have. Big X-Men fan. Watched the movies. Really loved the cartoon from the 90s. So have always been a fan of comic books. This is so genius. And so I started watching it, fell in love with it, binged it, and then started researching the comic book. And I'm even more impressed by the way that they retooled the characters and the plot of the comic in order to fit a lot of the things that we're going through right now in 2019. So if you haven't watched this show, run, don't walk, immediately and start watching it like yesterday, today, all day. Just go ahead because it's so good. It's so humorous but so dark and gritty, and it really deals with the premise of, in a world where people would really have superhero powers, what would that really look like? Would that really look like a bunch of people really trying to do good for the world? Or would hubris and pride and vanity get in the way and corrupt them? And so it looks at the corruption that happens when someone has power. Now you could say that this applies to the world of superheroes, but we could also apply it to the world of celebrity, which I think is what the show is also asking us to look at, and how if celebrity becomes too massive and becomes too powerful, how there is no checks and balance for that, and how it really can corrupt an individual. It also looks at things like the Me Too movement. It looks at things like war and how we make decisions about who is a villain and who is valuable and who is worthy of being saved. It deals with so many things in this show. It's so nuanced and it's so good. And the cast is fantastic. They really did a great job of casting this with people who could not only bring layers to the characters, but also highly resemble their real comic book counterparts. I guess I'll say that. So it's called The Boys, and it deals with this group of men and one female who are trying to take down those with superhero powers in the society who have been corrupted and who are doing harm to others. And there is a superhero group by the name of the Seven, which is supposed to be a play on the Avengers, a play on the DC Justice League, really probably more of the Justice League than Avengers, but there are nuances that kind of allow them to target Marvel as well. For instance, the show starts with this company logo where it's a collage of all the different superheroes, much in the same way that we see the Marvel logo in the movies now. It's a collage of all of the superhero movies. And there's an organization named Vaunt that owns pretty much all of the superheroes in the world and is marketing, is the PR and the marketing and the enterprise behind the superheroes. So there's this group called the Seven, and I'm going to see if I can get this correct. There is the leader of the group, Homelander, who is like Captain America in looks and appearance, but also kind of like Superman with like the powers. So it's like a hodgepodge of Superman and Captain America. You have Queen Maeve, who is the counterpart of Wonder Woman. You have A-Train, who is like the Flash. You have the Deep, who is like Aquaman. You have Homelander, Queen Maeve, A-Train, the Deep, Black Noir, who doesn't have any lines, and he's kind of like Batman. And then you have Translucent, and then a retired member of the Seven who is Lamplighter, and he's being replaced by a new member named Starlight. So those are the seven main big name superheroes that are going to be in all the movies. And then there's like 200 lesser superheroes who are on everything from TV shows to like small town heroes. For instance, this organization is trying to sell superheroes to towns to like help the towns clean up the crime. And so they pitch this one superhero named Nubian Prince, who is very much like Black Panther. So you get what's going on here. And what we find out is that these superheroes are not really living up to the image that we see them having in real life. Now, that's the overarching premise, and stop now if you don't want to hear spoilers. So it starts, so stop now, hit a like, and then go watch the show. And then come back. There we go. So it revolves around two main characters. The first is Hugh Campbell. He works at a television retail store, kind of like an electronics store. He's an AV guy. And he is just living a normal everyday existence, and his girlfriend Robin wants him to, stand up for himself more, ask for a raise because he's running the business, and he is getting ready to move in with her. Like, she springs this on him. He's so excited, he's happy, and then suddenly, as they're standing in the streets kissing, Robin evaporates. And so we see that A-Train, who is the fastest man in the world, has gone like supersonic speeds of like the speed of sound or something, and crashed into Robin and literally evaporated her. Like, she disintegrated. It's just blood. And Huey is left holding her hands. And this is like the first 7.5, 8 minutes of the show, guys. I mean, it gets dark super fast, and you realize this is not PG-13. This is darker than Deadpool. This is a super dark show. So it's dealing with Huey's aftermath of dealing with that and wanting to fight for the superhero who did this, A-Train, to not only like rightfully apologize and admit that he messed up, that he killed her, and not brush it off as like, oh, I'm sorry this happened, but like, I'm sorry I did this. I killed, your girlfriend. So it starts with that. And then we also see this new superhero kind of emerge named Starlight, who is a small town girl, wants to be a superhero, wants to save the world. She's bright. She's beautiful. She puts me in the mindset of like a Supergirl, but with her costuming, she looks more like Cloak from Cloak and Dagger, and also I can't think of that DC character that kind of looks like her, but she's kind of like a Supergirl kind of character. Yeah, let's go with that. and she has the ability to like draw on electricity and shoot like light beams out of her hands. And she gets accepted into the Seven. Well, we see her getting the behind the scenes of like the Seven is not cracked up with all that it's cracked up to be, when everything is more about the PR behind it versus actually saving people. And when she gets there, she is sexually assaulted and harassed by the Deep. And so she sees that it's not what she looked up to these people, and they're not the people that she thought they were going to be. And so it's us getting to see the behind the scenes of what a life of a real superhero would be. Now, Huey is later approached by this Black Ops type guy named Butcher, who wants to take on the Supes, and he wants to help get justice for Robin. So he reveals to Huey that A-Train really doesn't feel remorse for this by taking him to this like underground sex club for supers where they can like live their superhero powered freaky life. And there's this superhero that we're introduced to named Ezekiel, who's kind of like Stretch Armstrong or Mr. Incredible. And he can stretch his body, and he is supposed to be like an evangelical televangelist type guy, and yet he's at this sex club, and he's supposed to be preaching like I think the slogan they say is like capes for Christ or something like that. But he also is like preaching against like homosexuality, and yet he's there having like a four-way, almost like a four-way, because one guy is like going down on him, and then he stretches his body and then like goes and makes out with two guys in between him. It's really freaky. And so we get to see like this is superheroes behaving badly, so it's adding like the sex and it's adding the violence. And so Huey agrees to help. So he's going to go to the Seven. He's going to accept this deal that they're going to give him to pay him off to keep him quiet about what happened to Robin. And he's going to go there and he's going to plant a bug in their headquarters. Now, prior to doing this, he actually meets Starlight at a bench, doesn't know who she is, and they hit it off, and he befriends her. So this is, of course, going to be probably a problem, or going to be a problem later on in the show. Now, aside from that, you also have Starlight trying to stand up for herself. And so when she meets Huey, he encourages her to speak up for herself. And so she basically lets the Deep know she's not going to back down, and she's also not going to take any crap from him. Towards the end of the show, Translucent, who saw Hugh with the bug, the bug, follows him to the electronics store, gets into a fight with Butcher, and then eventually Hugh electrocutes him, makes him pass out, and they throw him in the trunk of the car to go and hide him or do something with his body. So they take down Translucent. Now, while that's going on, the VP of the organization that runs everything, called Vaughn, named Miss Stillwell, is trying to get a government contract for superheroes to fight in the military to get billions of dollars from that. And one of the things that she's also trying to do is trying to pimp the superheroes out to these towns. So she's talking to the mayor of Baltimore about getting the Nubian Prince, and he starts to say that he's not going to pay the amount that she wants. He underbids, and he says, you're going to accept this bid because I know about Compound V, which is some drug that they're peddling or whatever. So she seemingly accepts the bid, and then gives him, gives him like a signed autograph from Homelander, who is the main superhero. Well, we get the last image of the show, which is the mayor flying back on the plane with his son. The son is looking at his autograph and so excited. And then they see Homelander flying outside of the plane. And the little boy is so excited. He's like, look, Daddy, isn't he your friend? And he's waving to them. And then Homelander turns on his laser beams through the plane and causes it to crash. And so we see that he's just killed this little boy and everyone on this plane. So it really is dark there are funny moments to it. There are laughable moments to it, but it's kind of more of a dark comedy. You're not going to laugh out loud at everything, but it is good, guys. The writing is good. The character development is good. You really feel for Huey's character. It's interesting because they really start to layer some of the secondary characters a bit more. But go along with the ride. If you watch the first episode, you will love it. It's so good. And I'm really interested to see how they continue to develop these characters, especially what we're going to see from some of the other members of the Seven. And also, we haven't been introduced to all of the members of the Boys yet, so how they introduce those characters. But I really like this show, guys. I hope you like it. What did you think about it if you watched it? Have you watched any of the other kind of anti-superhero shows? And do you think this one is the best one, or do you think that there are others that do it better? Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button and to share and subscribe and do all those things, because it really makes me feel good when I read you guys' comments and I see what you guys think about the videos. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think? Until next time, toodles!